set, and there was a line of helicopters. There was like 10 helicopters, and I had gone through the makeup process, which is about 3.5 hours, and they put me in a helicopter and took me to the top of a mountain. There was snow on the ground. There were no paths or anything, and the helicopter left. And actually, it was Andy again. He wasn't playing his saxophone. He had a camera in his hand.
I mean, he wasn't piloting the airplane.
It's hanging up. It's like, but he was shooting 360-degree shots of when the dwarves. I think he's in the prologue when they go into exile, and that Thorin's leading his people away from the mountain. And we were left there for about 8 hours with some sandwiches in the bag and just alone in character, and it was really kind of memorable. I'll just never forget it.
Well, I think we have some time for some audience questions, if anyone has questions. There's a gentleman at the side of the auditorium with a microphone. Right over on that side.
There's a cuddly dragon up there. I can see it. Yeah, a cuddly one. Or is it a frog? No,
It's a Russian.
It's a dragon.
Maybe it's for you.
My question is, I guess you've seen the movie with audiences a couple times now. What's your favorite moment of audience reaction?
I guess this is I mean, we weren't here tonight, but this was a pretty loud house, huh? I don't know. I've seen it 4 times now. The first time was with, just the actors in a small screening room in London, and then the next night we watched it with all the fans, and that was a pretty well-behaved audience. It was last night in Los Angeles that people got rowdy.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a single moment in the movie that I remember the audience reaction. It was just all of the moments that they get. The way that you guys listen and watch Peter's work, and actually, the moment when you mentioned Strider.
I know, I just thought of that. Yeah, because it's such a moment for the fans. So, it's like you just, in LA, you just felt everyone go, oh, is it gonna,
And a fan that may have been in LA, right?
And what was the final scene that you shot?
You wanted to say that you have been in LA? Yeah. Where have you seen the premiere?
So I'm from London, and I went to the London premiere, but I didn't get a good spot. So I went to LA, and then I've come here tonight, and thank you.
Is that an Irish accent you have there?
Sorry?
Is that a little Irish accent you have there?
No, I'm from Wales.
From Wales. Sorry, Wales.
So what was the final scene that you shot, and what was it like filming it?
My final scene was, well, you've seen it now, so I can spoil it. But, as Azog is pushing the sword into Thorin's chest, and he has to take the sword away and make that choice. That was my final shot, which was the close-up looking down on him. It was very emotional, actually. Fran and Philip had gathered. They come when it's your final shot, and you don't always know. And Pete said, well, there you go, Rich, that's it, you've done it. And we all had a little cry together, and then I left the set and went to the bathroom.
But I would, after, and this was before that final shot that you did, but when Thorin died, the crew made a little memorial on the spot on the stage where he had died. They would make flowers out of gaffer tape. And, it kind of grew for a couple of days. Oh, my final shot? Not that cool.
We just wondered, after 3 years of promotions and premieres, what you'll miss next holiday time about all this.
Yeah, there won't be this. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You kind of put, it's right now it feels like a real moment of celebration because we've all worked so hard on these movies. We've enjoyed working with each other so much that this whole press tour has been a real celebration. A real kind of hello again. Good to see you again. We look at this thing we made. But a year from now, it really will feel like, oh, I won't go back to that lunch tent again, most likely. But and it may be a little sad then. So.
It's been such a gift. Can we give you something?
Sure.
My daughter.
Thank you very much. Can we open it now? God bless you.
Sure. Here's extra fun for Richard.
Oh, candy! Cookies!
Oh yeah. Thank you.
This is the thing I'm most excited about. My mom was a third grade teacher, and so this time of year, every year, we would kind of get a bunch of like fudge and cookies and stuff that our students would give her. So, she's retired now. So.
Richard, I'm emotionally devastated. Thank you. There's a rumor that you had a bit of a backstory that you had for Thorin. Could you maybe share some details of it now that we don't have to worry about spoilers?
You know, really, there is no backstory. Tolkien gives me everything I needed. I mean, I made notes about how I felt about it, so that when a year and a half passed and we were coming back to do pickups, I just went and reminded myself how I felt and thought, and all kinds of things. But in preparation for this, I really just looked at as much of Tolkien's work as I could, his biography, Carpenter's biography, and gathered my information really from there. I feel like he knew better than me, so there was not much elaboration on what he wrote.
Thank you for making me want to go home and cry for another day or month. I made little tissue packets with your quotes and to prepare for that too. Given that Thranduil's character can be a little unsympathetic if you don't know the back story, and you gave a little bit of it in the movie, how did you portray him so it didn't look like you didn't portray him like he was a caricature? And was there something you connected or with the character in order to make that easy?
Well, I guess I always thought of him as so different than humans are. He's more like a tiger in the woods or a great big tree that's been alive for thousands of years than he is like people. That kind of freed me up a lot to kind of, just to be other than human. And I actually understood his motivations the entire time. If these 13 dwarves come stumbling through this forest trying to wake up a dragon, you stop them. You hold them back from doing something like that. And he's and another thing that Tolkien writes about Mirkwood elves is that they're less wise and more dangerous, which I always thought was like a real key to him, and a key to the elves in general, is that they're not all Galadriel. She does that perfectly. That she's wise and powerful, but she's an exceptional figure among the elves. Thranduil is not that. He's incredibly powerful. He's a legendary warrior, but he's not. He's still complicated. I always thought another kind of thought I had about him is that he's spoiled by his immortality. You would think immortality is a gift, but it's also just a very complicated curse in a way, And I found that interesting about him, that it's this heartbreak that, through discussions with Philippa and Fran and Pete, we kind of fit into this movie, is that coldness comes from devastation, and knowing that you will live, from what I've read, and I'm sure there are people who know more about it than me that in this room, that, Thranduil is alive well into the Fourth Age, and still in Mirkwood. He never goes west. That's interesting. All these kind of clues gave me, inspiration to play the character.
Thank you for the wonderful movie. I enjoyed the experience a lot, but I'm sure there is more to come. I know Peter Jackson has promised that there will be about 30 minutes of added footage. Are there any scenes which you particularly enjoyed, which we have not seen yet?
Personally, there is a really rather fantastic chariot that Weta created, and it's one of the few things that is real and physical there's a whole sequence with, I don't know who's actually driving, I think Balin is driving, and there's a really interesting weapon on the back of the chariot, which is going to be awesome in the extended cut.
All right. Yeah, so Lee, this is for you. After shooting with Guardians of the Galaxy, when you came back to shoot The Hobbit, did you bring the dance-off skills between takes?
Look, you've always got those skills. You're never without the skills. The problem with this is that they were all too afraid. I'm kidding. Don't go, ooh.
Are you gonna dance?
No one's dancing. I'm really getting hot.
If you felt like it, I don't think anyone would mind.
It's a serious movie with me.
This is for Lee. What was it like playing the father to an older man?
Play someone who is 3,000 plus years old. A couple of years is not really making that much of a difference. Orlando is very, I mean, he's the original action elf, really. So he was always gave me great ideas. Very wise.
Okay, now that we can talk about spoilers, Richard, do you think that Thorin has a different perspective of elves now that Legolas kind of did save him at the end?
Bilbo, is that you?
Me, Hobbit me.
Sorry, just repeat the question. I was mesmerized.
My question is, do you think Thorin has a change of perspective of how he sees elves because Legolas did kind of save him at the end?
Yeah, it's something I haven't thought of, and maybe you need to see the film a few more times. But you know, it's kind of inherently built into the kind of DNA of dwarves to be at odds and in antagonism with elves, and it goes way back. I mean, it's verging on prejudice, really. So yeah, I mean, I appreciated all of those moments. You know, one of my favorite moments in the movie is where the dwarves kind of line up in that Roman formation, and the elves leap over the top. It comes out of nowhere, and you don't see it planned. You don't see anyone, command it. But it's just a great moment. It lifts you. So yeah, I'd say they maybe will put their differences aside.
Thank you. I think this might be our last question.
Hi, this is for both of you. Have either of you ever read The Hobbit?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Tariel, is that you?
Richard, you said you had a sort of a great memory of your childhood reading The Hobbit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was there from a very early age. It was read to me in primary school, and I remember the teacher doing a brilliant voice of Gollum, and I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. It's still one of my favorite scenes in the book, and my favorite scenes in the whole trilogy is Riddles in the Dark. And when Tolkien created Gollum and the Ring, he really didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't know what he created, and actually retrofit his own work to expand on the idea of the ring. And yeah, it was. I think it was where my imagination formed with Tolkien.
Well, thank you both so much for being here with us tonight.
Come on, if you got a costume, come on up for a second.
If you don't have a costume, quickly make one.
Oh, sorry.